there's three ways that I've discovered through my mentors that people grow. And we need all of these to really get results and to get them quickly. See, we overestimate what we can do in a day, but we underestimate what we can do in a year. And so I have these principles applied to my life. I originally learned these from Tony Robbins years ago, and it transformed the way that I think about personal growth. I realized that, and you can see if this is obviously a podcast, but there's tons of books on my desk because I read books all the time. I do listen and consume, but it's just a piece of the puzzle. So there's three pieces of personal growth that people need. The first, I'm going to talk about what most people are already doing, and that is consumption on a daily basis, right? Consumption of some sort of positive material, some sort of listening, something like that. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because a lot of people already do this, but I want to make sure that there's a note with it, and it's consumption with application. If you just consume, if you just listen to an audiobook in the car or just read and then just keep living your day, you're going to be positive for a couple hours, sure. But what's important is that you read and you pause and see how it applies to you. This might be an online course. So for example, I'm going through a business course right now, and the instructor talked about how if what you're doing here is just watching these modules to complete the course, you're doing this wrong. You need to do the lesson, pause, actually sit and reflect and journal about how you're choosing to apply it to your life, which is why I said most people do half of one of these things, right? Most people consume, but they don't apply. So we need application. And we talked about that throughout the whole first piece of this podcast. Slow down on your personal growth in courses, people. Read, consume, but then make sure you have just as much time to apply. So that's number one. Number two is about, and I'm going to get some excuses and some feedback from people the minute I say this. And it's about having spaced repetition from someone external checking in with you, otherwise known as coaching.
Otherwise known as accountability. Otherwise, yes, absolutely.
Coaching.
Yeah.
And there's a siren going by. Sorry about the sound there. But Chicago. But this is so important. Everybody needs a coach. A coach is so important because they will be able to call out what are called blind spots, things that you are not seeing and are unable to see if you just keep doing the same thing. And just having someone say, well, have you thought about it like this? Or are you sure about that? Or I want to challenge you on that. Challenging people causes you to call on the best version of them. And so a coach will help you to grow exponentially faster than you otherwise would have, because it's a different perspective. A coach is not someone that tells you the right way. A coach isn't even someone that needs to be more successful than you. A coach is someone that can ask questions that brings out the best version of you. And so we need a coach to be able to go to this next level. Most people just do number one, let alone 2 and 3, but they just do number one, half of number one, and they listen to personal development thinking that's going to change their life, and it will help. But if you don't have someone consistently checking in for A, accountability, and B, a different perspective, then you are reading those books and listening to those audios through the lens that created your existing life. And if you use the mindset that you use to create your existing life to try to change your life, you won't change. So everyone needs a coach. That's number 2 of 3. There is a third piece that is so powerful that I think when people experience it, a lot of times it happens from just kind of happenstance, like they just stumble upon this and then realize the power of it. But if you can intentionally do this in advance, your whole life will radically transform so fast. And that is the power of number 3, a total immersion experience. A total immersion experience. And the reason for this is because when you are fully immersed in something, the amount of neural connections that you create in such a short period of time is insane. I think back to that personal development event that I talked about in my story that changed my life. It was because it was 4 days of 12 hours a day jamming on this one idea. And it caused my entire brain to literally change in the moment. And so I like to think of it like a metaphor of studying languages. So my wife and I went to Italy, And in the 6 months leading up to our trip to Italy, we wanted to learn the language. So we did all the apps, studied Italian. It was amazing. And we learned some stuff. We spent 2.5 weeks in Italy and learned more Italian in those 2.5 weeks than the previous 6 months combined. And it was because we were immersed. And you'll see this with like company conventions. Like if you ever notice that at company conventions, there's this massive eruption of energy after it, new skill sets learned and acquired. Or if you go to like a Tony Robbins event or a Brendan Burchard event or whatever it is, there are these immersion events. And so when you pair that, when you put that with these other two pieces, it's like taking these massive leaps of growth. So, like every 6 months or so, if you schedule them in advance, you take a massive leap of growth, you back that up with consistent accountability coaching and success coaching, and each day along the way, you're consuming material to support those goals and dreams and you apply it, you will grow more in a year than most people do in 20.